I'm sure you have all heard this idea of ego death, killing our ego, transforming our lives by killing a part of us that is not working for us. I always find it really interesting how we use words, because all of the words we use have a specific vibration. And this idea that we can kill a part of us in order to transform our lives and manifest what we want is faulty, and it cannot happen. We are a whole, our energy is a whole. We are beings that have always existed, will always exist, and we just change suits, body suits. Our ego is part of our energetic form, right? Our ego, let's say the human aspect of ourselves, that aspect that sometimes feels that it's the most resistant to change, the most resistant to this progression that we want to create in our lives. And yes, this idea that we can kill a part of ourselves in order for this other part of ourselves to thrive is interesting, isn't it? Like, we think that we need to have win-lose situation. We have to have a part of us lose, that we are in competition with, at war. It's our enemy. Our ego is our enemy, right? Parts of our ego is our enemy. We have to kill them. We have to stop them from existing, shut them up. I've heard a lot of people say about, okay, how do you shut up your inner critic? That's also part of our ego. We cannot kill any parts of ourselves. That would go against creation, against God, and against our own existence. It would be like trying to amputate ourselves. And on an energetic way, although in a physical way, we probably can do that. It's not advisable. We probably don't want to do that. But in an energetic way, we cannot. We're infinite, always existing, always existed, and always will exist. So what do we actually want to do, and how changing our wording could change our own perspective and energy around healing and transforming our lives? Because that's what we're talking about when we want to progress, make changes, do different things. We want to transform our lives, transform our frequency and our energy. And we think that the energy and frequency of this ego part of ourselves that is resisting is holding us back, and we have to just let it go. We have established that that's not impossible. That's not possible. That it is impossible to kill your ego. Stop saying that this has happened to you, or that this is what you're trying to do, because this is ultimately not helping you as a frequency of words and using, or even as a perspective. What we want to do is basically look at this part of ourselves, that's holding this resistance. Look at it and understand why it's holding this perception of things. Because our ego, if we think about our ego in a way that is actually keeping us safe in our lives, the question here is, would we want to try to kill somebody who is trying to keep us safe and is actually a good friend of ours? Because that's what the ego is, a very good friend of ours, always trying to keep us safe. Sometimes this safety feels like a golden cage. Okay. This means we transform the cage, we transform the experience instead of trying to destroy it. So we need to go back into understanding that this part of ourselves, having a conversation, having a dialogue, having a back and forth, really having an open mind of why this is resistance showing up. How are we trying to keep ourselves safe? Why are we doing this? What's the root cause? When did it start? And how, in order for us to be able to bring the perspective of how this hinders our evolution, how this hinders our life, how this actually is creating problems for our relationships, ourselves, our health, any part of our lives, our expression. Instead of trying to kill the ego or think about it as some enemy of ours, if we think about it as a friend and try to understand it, then the magic happens, because when we try to understand it and talk to it, heal it, then the energy of the ego shifts, transforms, the frequency shifts and transforms. And then we can use this energy in order to propel ourselves forward, to bring these change that we want to bring. So do we want enemies or friends is the ultimate question here. And what kind of wording do we want to be using? A wording that brings the sense of war and having to fight for our lives, create enemies, create hatred, anger towards ourselves, or a languaging and a perspective and understanding that creates connection, creates healing, awareness, self-love, ultimately, right? Integration with the different parts of ourselves. I know in spirituality, a lot of people love to use this wording. I'm killing my ego, how to kill your ego, and ego death and stuff like that. Nothing is dying. It's only transforming. And I will add one thing here too. The fact that your ego is never going to die means that if you try to oppose it and try to kill it, try to have a war with it, it might stop, it might pretend it doesn't exist for a little bit of time until you are back at your weak point, and it will come back full force, even worse than before, because it's trying to keep you safe from your own insanity of trying to kill it. So instead of bringing this work perspective within ourselves, let's bring the integration and self-love perspective within ourselves and see how this changes and transforms your life and your own experience.